Hi, welcome to part 2, and this is the more detailed discussion as I approach halfway on the CX500 Turbo. So I'm going to go through everything that I've done so far and make note of any areas to watch. Now to start off with, this kit has the cartograph decals. Very nice decals. But I have built a kit recently that used cartograph decals, and I sort of thought they were going to be absolutely perfect, and their lines were not the correct width. This was some of the striping on the fuselage, of the bodywork. They weren't correctly sized or spaced, which means they would not end up matching the color scheme exactly, which is very unfortunate because they're nice decals. So I can't verify that these are going to be the correct size until I've built this. Now I will be building 2, so we'll soon have feedback since decals are not far off on this one. Now I am doing a minimalist build, or at least a semi-minimalist build on this first CX500, and then on the second one I will do a lot more detailed build. Now when I say minimalist, I'm trying to keep many items in standard color. For instance, I won't be painting the frame. I regard that as quite good enough. Now keep in mind, the reason I'm doing a minimalist build is not because I think painting it won't be a better result. I know painting will always be a better result. I'm specifically building it in a manner which is close to when I started building kits long ago and kept many of the parts in what was imagined to be the correct motorcycle color to a young chap at that time. So I'm sort of showing what can be achieved with a CX500 Turbo without going overboard. Trying to do it quickly, that's the first thing. Trying to do the least amount of spraying of parts that would make it look quite acceptable. And once I'm finished, please give feedback and we'll see how it went. Okay, frame is together. There wasn't really anything particular to note on this one, except possibly that piece there at the bottom, very difficult to see here there, which is a little two-piece thing. Just make sure that you glue those and ensure that the alignment is correct. It's one of those pieces where they can shift ever so slightly while you're building it. I'm just going to remove pieces off here as I go along. Tail piece, tail mudguard as it is so far, which is basically just the kit black. 2 pieces. The only noteworthy thing here, and I hope I haven't got it wrong, I tried my best to do this correctly. There aren't locating pins, there's only an overlap of an area over there, that overlap area there. So just check that when you're test fitting it, just make sure that it is in fact aligned. As I look at this one now, well, it's pretty close, but I'd say it's not actually perfectly aligned. But it's in an area where you are not going to know that. Okay, I've sprayed this. I happened to be doing gloss black yesterday, so I started with gloss black. I'm masking that area, but I'm going to be keeping all of the white plastic from the kit as the bodywork color. I'm not going to spray white, so that's a fairly easy masking. I've done gloss black, but I am going to put a satin over that to look like basically the correct satin as the normal plastic is. That's a very nice satin, and in fact that radiator will also just be left as is. these two parts here, the two parts that look like that, fit inside there and are part of the locating pieces to fit this piece of fairing onto the bodywork later. I did decide to do the spraying of gold because without the gold the CX500 turbo is just not really going to look great. So I've sprayed these discs so far, and I still need to mask and then spray the outside so that they have the actual braking surface as they should be in metal. Very nice two-part rims. So I've finished that and I've put on the tire. It is worth noting, if you're new to motorcycles, that where Tamiya provides a two-part rim like this one, so there's a left and a right piece that go on together, there is a very small locating pin, which means that there's only one way to fit those two together. But the pin is so small, and I've seen people do this. I've obtained kits where people have glued it on without realizing there was a locating pin there, so they still got it on, but it was now a little bit where it should have been flush. It was now a little bit removed from where it should have been, but they just jammed more glue in and glued it anyway. Be aware there's a locating pin on both of those. I have done the left and right halves of the exhaust. Now here is a thing to note. On the exhaust, and do you see that ridge on the bottom there? So this is an exhaust where the curvature of the top matches flush, but on the bottom it's not, because there's actually a shielding plate around a part of this exhaust, and it happens to match where it would come into the surface of the actual exhaust right at the join line. A friend of mine who built this one long ago didn't realize that and thought they were supposed to match, as did I in the initial look when I was just test fitting them the other day, before I realized there's that shielding plate, and that I might have to sort of force it or do sanding, and he eventually sanded it flat. Don't. So when you glue these two halves together, you don't even need to put glue onto that bottom part where it doesn't, where there's that stepping part. You can glue only one surface and a little bit of the other surface, and once that's done, you can put some glue on the inside. So it's quite easy to then access with the Tamiya brush to put further glue in. If you wanted, you don't even need to really do that. It's pretty good joint, but I'm sure you will want to add a little bit more in there. And I will be leaving these gloss black just as they are there, although possibly the correct black would be slightly duller. It is on the box art there, slightly duller than a high gloss black. And then it gets the turbo decal on top of that. Okay, the headlight, lens and clear part, they've done very well in that they've given you this overlapping surface with locating pins, which means you don't need to get glue anywhere near the joint areas. So all the rest of this area has not been glued. The only thing that's been glued is there, and it's perfect. And that's one of the things I really like about Tamiya. They of course don't always do it, but they do think about making life easier for assembly. So in this case, you can achieve a very, very nice finish there without the danger of glue mess or anything like that. And it's quite nice and strong and sturdy. The handlebar, at least as far as the rubber and that big plastic cover I'm going to be leaving in the plastic satin black finish. I will just do the smallest of details on one or two of these switches just to bring out a little bit of the highlight. Depending on which CX500 turbo model you have, new or old, and when I say new or old, they're the same kit but newly packaged or something that was bought in the 80s. The original one I don't think had two handlebars. This kit that I bought has got two handlebars in it. The one is in a packet that says use this one, and the other one is part of the normal sprues. This one just came on a little extra small sprue and it says use this one. And I've put the two together and matched them every way I can, measured everything, and I can't see a difference. So I actually have no idea why this kit will have supplied a second handlebar with the instructions to use that. Okay, on the back of the exhausts, they're not open, they have that. Now obviously I don't want a nice gloss chrome exhaust exit, and I guess it'll just be gloss black. I should have done that yesterday, but I still need to dechrome those. You can probably spray gloss black onto the gloss chrome, but spraying a gloss onto a gloss, you do stand the risk of it not adhering in the same way that it would to a primer coat. In fact, it's most likely. So I do still need to dechrome those, and of course the dechroming is done by a couple of methods. The method that I use is that drain cleaner with the strong bleach content. I did do that little accident that I covered in a separate video where I sprayed with the industrial thinners and the clear red, but luckily the CX500 Turbo's light hardly got damaged. It got damaged ever so slightly, but it almost just lends to the weathering of a clear piece on an older bike. So that's done. Came out very nice. It's quite a bit of job. I spent a good half an hour just spraying thin layer after thin layer after thin layer, doing it really well. Okay, those the rear indicators, and I will bring back that. So they need to slot into there, but that is black. So you will need to paint silver inside there, or if you want, put a piece of tin foil or something to give the effect of a lens behind there. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm not going to paint silver in there because it's just a really deep hole. So you won't quite get the same effect. I suppose I could even just paint silver, but I'm going to use some tin foil behind there. I sort of like that idea, the gloss side of tin foil. I didn't dechrome these two pieces, the two swing arm sides, but I did spray a slight gunmetal over them so that you still get a shininess from the chrome, but it's dulled down by this very light gunmetal layer. But you can of course either dechrome and spray whatever you want to, or keep the chrome. I'm interested to see how that looks on the final product. So these were dechromed. I wanted to do them properly. So dechromed gloss. First I did the gold. First I did that gold, since I didn't need to do anything underneath it. Then I masked and sprayed the gloss black underneath the this part, and then I sprayed Alclad chrome. I haven't sprayed a gloss layer yet, which I might actually do, and then I still need to do the calipers black. So the calipers there at the end of the fork, they still need to get done black. But the forks look quite nice enough. I just sprayed that one gloss black, not much to say about that there. Same with that, just whatever colors you choose to do. I tried to spray well, I did spray it with a satin black, but the particular satin black that I used came out more matte than one would have imagined. So well, the first point is there's a very thin decal on the seat. I don't know if you can see on the image there, there's a very thin white line on the box art that is a left and right decal that goes around the whole seat. No chance that's going to be put onto this matte surface, and in fact even putting on that decal would be quite a challenge. It is of the thinnest and most tricky decals that you've ever seen. I will simply skip that on this first build, which means if I choose to keep this as it is, I can't put them on, or if I chose to change this to a satin such that it could actually get decals on, I'm still not sure that I'd want to do that. I'm okay with this first build missing those seat decals. This is a two-part. That little piece at the back just gets glued on there. Just take your time with that one. It is a little bit of a delicate joint to get right, so don't try and rush that piece. You can put your glue on from that side. So hold it in position, put a little bit of glue on from the inside, and get a very nice joint. Okay, I am missing the big fairing. Okay, I forgot to bring in the big fairing piece from inside. The front fairing has got molded into it the grills in front of the radiator. On the real bike, they're a sort of a metal protection grate to stop things going onto the radiator. On the model, they're a molded piece which you need to paint, even though there's radiator behind it. On this first build, I'm not going to remove them, so that makes them a little bit of a tricky area to paint since they're quite recessed. You just can't see them there, but it's a little bit equivalent to that part, which is this. Now these are a separate molding and you can paint those independently, but they're also a grate. So they're actually, if you really wanted to get detailed, you could replace that with a some sort of metal mesh. I'll be painting that black, but I do need to mask it because the white edges, that middle piece and this back edge, still need to be white as on the model there. So it's not just an all black piece. Nothing really to say about that. Okay. I'll speak about that first so that I can get that out of the way. So that the turbocharger comes with two parts, but that joining, that little joining keyhole shaped bit there, which when you fit these two together, those two together, still allows a certain amount of motion, but that has to fit quite nicely onto the engine, touching the correct area. So don't go and glue that up, because you may actually just you may end up gluing it such that a shift caused you to not be able to mount it properly, whereas in fact the opposite shift. So when I check how that fits, and that's probably going to be tonight actually, I'll see what the best was there. And of course you can do a lot nicer detailing on that. I'm just going with simple gunmetal on this build, but the next build I'll do a lot better on that one. Engine, basically kit color all the way, keeping the chrome tappet covers, and I'm keeping that chrome. I have done some of the parts which were in the gunmetal plastic. I've redone them in gunmetal spray just to look a bit nicer, because that plastic isn't the best. So the engine is not too bad, but it is a little bit tricky. Take your time to test fit it quite a lot at first, because I could see that there was a lot of opportunity to end up with a badly fitting engine there. There are not adequate locating lugs or locating, even though you've got a surface, plan it pretty well. And if you need me to do a separate one on the engine, specifically looking at the parts, I'll take them out of my other kit. I can do that. So obviously no problem with all of those extras that are on there. It's that main gearbox, which is 4 main parts, possibly 5, that really need to be glued correctly. Now I was lucky in that I decided to do it in one sitting, and I looked for the best mating surface to join the left and right hand sides, and then I chose the best one for the front and back to ensure that I'm getting some sort of reasonable accuracy, symmetry. I glued that, I glued another part, and as I was going along I was still able to adjust because the glue hadn't set completely yet, and even when I glued the middle part of the cylinders on, there was a bit of further adjustment to be done. So that's possibly one of the more difficult areas on this kit, I would say. Pay specific attention to that flat section of the bottom. Don't neglect that. That needs to be very flat, as it's supposed to be, but it needs to be flat for the extra reason that this oil sump with its fins glues onto that flat surface. There are 2 locating pins, but it's quite easy to have, and mine is slightly off, where you don't have a perfect flat surface, and then you stand the risk of putting your sump on a little bit skew. So take your time and really make sure that those first 4 parts of the engine is actually, okay, let me add to that. The first 4 parts of the engine and the next 2, I think, which make up the cylinders. I can't remember exactly now. I think it's 2. You really need to get them right. Take your time test fitting and see how they could go wrong. Just because you've got glue on them doesn't mean that suddenly they're going to slot, be exactly aligned. I do tend to use the actual casing screw holes as guidelines, not screw holes, the slightly raised detail as to where screws would go in as a guideline, but that's not always perfect. This top piece goes on 2 locating rods which stand out, and it can be put on so that it's onto those 2 lugs, but it can wobble forwards and backwards. So make sure that when you put that top piece on, it's actually dead flat with other flat areas on the engine. So basically it must be symmetrical and not forward tilted or backward tilted. But otherwise quite nice. We'll see how much of it is visible. Just maybe some of the top section won't be visible. So on my next build I am going to be looking forward to doing some sort of subtle weathering to make my engine look a little bit aged, but still nice looking. Not dilapidated, but just not absolutely, straight like that. I don't really need to say anything about the instructions. They are as good as Tamiya ever is. So yeah, anyway, ask in the comments if there's any areas that you need me to discuss in more detail. By the next time it'll be well on the way to sort of being a rolling chassis and 3/4 complete, I guess. but feel free to ask, and since I am building 2 of them, I can cover anything that you need. Very nice build, I would say. It is recommendable, not the easiest, but not the most difficult. Thanks. Cheers.